It'll be mostly in standing, and then we'll have a moment sitting in a chair with the use of the weight of a book. So you can grab something like that real quick. If you don't have it, you can improvise or do without and then play with practice later. I love this beautiful book, The Beautiful Brain. Okay, so let's begin. Go ahead and come stand. If anything I'm proposing is not comfortable for you, is like, no, not good, then don't do that. Make small movements, ease into it. Come stand. At this particular moment, if you're looking at the screen, just take a moment to look away from the screen and notice what standing is like. Notice where your weight is on your feet without correcting anything. Notice where you're looking with your eyes. And is it a little bit down or to the side, or is it up? Which side of yourself is a little easier to look at, to look towards? And anything else that you notice about your standing right now? Do you feel upright? Do you feel like, oh, you could just go down? Do you feel a little turned? So what is it to begin with? And then go ahead and take a step. So step forward with one foot and begin with straight legs. And your step can be just however you like. It doesn't need to be a big step, but just however you like. With straight legs, begin to shift your weight. And just notice how you do that, what moves as you shift your weight. Is it easier to go forward to the front leg or easier to go back to the back leg? And then pause and a little bit bend your knees and then unbend your knees. So just the very beginning of bending your knees, unbending your knees. If you need to adjust your stance to make that comfortable, then adjust. Bend and notice the quality of the bending, where you bend, where you move. If your weight is in the middle of your legs, or is it a little more towards the back leg or a little more towards the front leg, all is good. And then stay with your knees a little bent and shift your weight a little forward and a little back. See how this is a different experience than shifting your weight with your legs straight. Again, if you feel like a need to adjust your stance, then do. Okay, and then stand and pause. Change over your legs. Start with straight legs and a little bit shift your weight. See, do you do it the same way? Do you have the same strategy on this side, or do you turn more, or do you bend? Do you lean? However you do is good. Just noticing. And then pause and a little bit bend your knees. Use that opportunity to make any adjustments so you're comfortable. And again, just a little bit of a bending. So what's easy right now? Stay with your knees a little bent and shift your weight from here. Adjust if you'd like, so that you're comfortable. If you find that when you're doing this, or if you have any injuries on one side and you go to shift your weight and it's uncomfortable, then shift your weight less in that direction or not in that direction. You can also use a chair to take some of the balance issues off and the weight off. Okay, and then stand and pause. And then change over your legs again. And this time we'll be a little more specific about how to shift the weight. So with straight legs, you can put your hands in the front of your hip joint area. So somewhere here, put your hands there, straight legs, and begin to tip yourself, hinge yourself from your hip joints a little down and then back up. And do this where you keep your spine straight, so no bending in the spine, just a little tiny bending from the hip joints. It could be a small movement. And see, is it possible to shift your weight from this place? So a little leaning forward and back. Okay, pause. And then now from here, bend your knees. Keep your knees a little bent. And now with your knees bent, do this shifting of weight from a kind of a hinging at the hips. So if you want to even feel one hip joint, what it does, or the other hip joint, or you like to feel in the front and the back, you can use your hands as feedback to make sure that you don't bend, don't flex or extend in the spine, just a little bit of shifting from the hip joints. And here you can also notice, do you go between one leg and the other leg? Or is it more comfortable maybe just to stay more on your back leg and do the movement? Or interesting? See how you do the movement on the back leg, or maybe on the front leg, or between one leg and the other leg. Okay, and then pause. Notice in the pause if spontaneous breath comes, if you look in a slightly different direction, or your weight shifts in the balance of the upright. Remember which leg was in back and keep that leg in back. And bend your knees a little bit. And now do the flexion extension of the pelvis, where you tuck your pelvis under and then take your pelvis back and leave your head more or less quiet. So it's a movement of your pelvis. It can be small, and you can use your hands to help you feel your belly comes forward, back arches a little bit, and then your belly comes in and your back flattens a little bit. And then can you use this to help you shift your weight? So you shift a little forward and you shift a little back. Again, if you need to adjust your feet, or maybe it's not comfortable for you to go forward, just stay on the back leg. Back and forth. Okay, pause for a moment. And then one more time, take that leg back, and now just see how the bending of the knees is. Did that change anything? That's interesting. Okay, pause, see if you sense a difference between the two sides. Do you notice more of a change on the side that was the leg that was in front, or the leg that was behind? And then change over your legs. And start with legs straight and just see, how is it to hinge with the legs straight from the hip joints, spine staying like one stick. And then when you bend your knees, how is it to do? See how you can wear what? What moves? This possibility of shifting your weight forward, shifting your weight back. And again, just noticing, oh yeah, I can go forward, but no, I'm not going to go back. Or maybe it's really the back, the shifting back that feels good, and I don't really want to go forward so much. So you just listen to that. Okay, and then stand. Same leg back, and just see how is the bending of the knees. Did that change anything for you? And then stand and see, sense the uprightness. We just dipped in to the very beginning of this practice. And this is the foundational elements of a practice that builds and builds and builds and builds, and really is a practice. It's like a work of art, a body of work, and all the lessons and all the variations stack onto each other and get super interesting. Walk around a little bit and just see from this little bit, is there any noticing of difference in your sense of uprightness or how you sense yourself in walking? And then come back one more time to standing, change over your legs and bend your knees a little bit and come back to this movement of the tilting of the pelvis. So you tilt a little forward, a little back while you shift your weight, and feel at a certain point when you go back, there's a limit to how far you can go back, and see if you lift the front of your front foot, you could go back a little further, and just do that a few times. So you go back and lift the front of your front foot. And here you can do a kind of a combination or whatever's comfortable for you, this swinging of the pelvis here. And then when you come forward, you can lift your heel. So including your feet. We're going to go more into the feet when we do a proper introduction of the JKA Solvents and Glue, but just see how is it today. Just a small, gentle lifting of the feet. Okay, pause. Change over your legs. Same idea. So you begin with the pelvis and then add in a little bit your feet. If it feels too complex to add the feet, just keep with the pelvis. If it feels better just to do one foot, you can do that. There's always the option of the chair, or you can go back and forth. And you just find a place up here to be quiet. You can look down or you can look forward, or just find a place to be comfortable up above. And then stand. Walk around one more time. And notice what the upright is like, how your room is looking, where you're looking. Okay. And then grab your chair. We're going to do something on a chair and then come back to standing. So grab your chair or stool and your book. So you'll need a book with some weight. If you don't have that, you can improvise with something that has some weight, or do it without the weight and come back to that later. So begin by sitting. Come and sit towards the edge of your chair. And let's revisit this movement from standing, of hinging forward from the hip joints. So just have your feet on the ground, and it's just a little movement of not rounding and not arching. We're just keeping all of this stable, and it's just a movement from the hip joints, just a small movement. So you see how you do that. Is it exactly in the middle, or do you feel it's a little biased towards one leg or the other? Okay, pause, and then just lift one leg. See, choose which leg you want to lift a few times. Feel how heavy is it? How light is it? And then the other leg. Okay, leave that. And now let's do the flexion and extension, the rounding of the back, but this time let your head come down. So everything comes down, rounding, and then arching your back, and go gently. So you feel that the movement can be spread. There's no sense of pulling or discomfort somewhere. If one of these directions is not so good for you, then don't do it, or do less. Feel how the movement can be spread. Okay, good. Now, go ahead and grab your book and choose one leg to work with to begin with, and put the book on your leg, not on the tip of the knee, but sort of above the knee area on the thigh. Or if that's not comfortable for you, you can adjust. And then from here, lift your leg with the weight of the book and then return. And do that a few times. Lift and then return. If it feels like not enough weight, you can add more weight. If it feels like too much weight, you can reduce it, and you can do it with something much, much lighter. So take care. One more time, lifting, lowering, put the book down, pause for a moment. And now lift your leg. Let's see, is it any lighter? Okay, maybe yes, maybe no. Let's do one more thing. Take the book, put it on your leg, lift a couple times, and then stay with your leg lifted where it is and do this rounding and arching of your back movement. If it's uncomfortable, you can reduce the weight, but wherever you, or reduce the number of repetitions. So the idea is that you keep this stable situation of your leg and you move relative to that, and then let that go. Look down, pause, wait a moment, and then lift your leg. It's always surprising, even though I've been doing it a while. It's like, wow, how did that happen? What? Sit for a moment. And since you're sitting, take your two hands and put it on that leg. Put your hands on that leg that you were just lifting. Slide your hands down the leg and let yourself lean forward and then come back. And just notice how you do this. And then compare that to your other leg, even just the very beginning of the movement in the other direction. Is it easier on one side compared to the other? It's interesting. Okay, so let's do the other side. First, just compare how is it to lift the side you worked with and how is it to lift the other side, the weight, difference, movement. And then go ahead and grab your book, put it on the leg, the new leg, and a few times lift. I was doing this earlier with an even heavier book, and I think the effect is even stronger the more weight you have with this particular thing, but you can modulate for yourself what works for you. Put the book down, pause, and then lift your leg. Okay, the book there one last time, a few times, lift up, stay lifted, and then make this rounding and arching movement. Pelvis goes back, head goes down, pelvis comes forward, and you see if you can keep the book where it is. One more time. And then put the book down, pause, and lift your leg. So fun, super fun. Take your hands down and slide down. Go all the way down. See what that is like on this side. How you do to one side, to the other side. And now just come back to this hinging movement. Is there any difference in the freedom of your hip joints to move, to have your pelvis move relative to your legs? It's interesting. And then stand. And notice how the standing is. Walk around a little bit. Come back to standing for a moment. Take a step forward and return to what we began with, the very first thing, which was straight legs, shifting weight. What's that like right now? And then what is it to bend your knees? Is that a different experience than before? It's almost like, yeah, it's always surprising. It's so surprising. Okay. And then begin the shifting of the weight. Shifting of the weight. And you can do it in the two ways we learned. One was you could do it just by the hinging. Is that any different? How do you find that? What you even look for now? And then there was the tilting of the pelvis way. Tilting it under, back. And then if you want to add on the feet, you can. But it's also good just to not add on. Okay, how is that now? Is anything more fluid about this than before? And then stand. Change over your legs. Start with the straight legs shifting. Anything different there? Do you find, oh, you can find the hinging differently maybe? And then you bend your legs. Do your hip joints bend differently when you bend your legs? Do your knees or ankles move differently? And then begin to keep your knees bent and see if you shift your weight, see how you do it. You do it from the hinging. Do you like to do it from the rounding and arching the back? Do you want to see what it's like to bring in the feet? Or do you like just to keep the feet quiet and see how it is? Check the bending. Okay. And now, how is your standing? Where are you looking? If you look away from the screen, your breath, where it goes, how it moves. How is your weight distributed on your legs? And overall, what's your sense of being upright right now compared to before? And how about your mood? Walk around a little bit. We will be diving in deeper, like the very beginning, the hip, hip, hooray of the celebration of this, and also the possibilities and some of the building blocks that we'll be using in standing. And also we'll get on the floor and do lessons on the floor. I feel like $1 million. That is great. Oh my gosh, I'm taller. Was able to breathe. The mood has lightened, less rotated, new direction, well oiled. Wow, how cool. So that's one of the things that I love about this work is that it really influences me on many levels. There's the level of the physical and the solvents part of the unwinding of the patterns, of the old patterns or the stuck places. And then the glue, which we didn't really get so much into here, although you maybe felt a little bit, some people mentioned the stability, is how to also isolate joints and move around them and have different places be stable, have some places be stable, other places moving and have choice around that. And gently lubricated. Oh, I love that. That's interesting. My balance varied so much from leg to leg, from straight leg to bent. But by the end of the session, my balance has improved overall. How cool is that? So there's the physical layer, and then there's the emotional layer, the energized, the enlivened, the awake, the hopeful. Like I feel, yeah, all right. I feel like my face is like brighter somehow also. Like there's also this element of staying oriented to your environment because you have the eyes open. So we'll do more gentle, beginner-friendly things, and then we'll get more into the strengthening and stabilizing and also using eventually the Pilates ring for the work with the upper body, which is super interesting. Does this session great for those who are getting back into standing and walking after a sprained ankle and foot pain. It depends on the severity and the stage of where the person's at. I know for myself, when I've been sitting on the computer a long time, things get a little tweaky, my knee hurts, or like I have had some injury with my foot or my leg. This practice is like the go-to thing. And what you do is that then you just, if say the injury is on the front leg here, then you just go, you can use a chair, but you don't go all your weight there. You just do what you can. And then when you switch the legs, you switch all the asymmetry, and you get to come back and do different things. You go back and forth, and just super easy, super gentle. But yeah, absolutely. I had a weak ankle and it's gotten better doing this. Someone just said, yeah. And good for the back. Yes. Ankles, knees, hips, also neck, shoulders. Okay. I feel more confident. Oh, good. Gentle embodiment, less fight, flight. I find it super, many people have talked about feeling less depressed, feeling less anxious. Like it really does influence on the emotional levels. It has for me. And I find it really works well with the organic intelligence, the other practice that I do. Is very complementary, very symbiotic, because it's all about like network connections. Opened my day book to this quote: "You are the laboratory, and every day is an experiment. Go and find what is new and unexpected." Oh, I love that. Thank you. Thanks for celebrating with me. Feel free to write in questions, share with your friends. See you next time.